सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। Okay, so let us chant the first first 10 verses of the 8th chapter, and we will do it only once. So hopefully you'll just either follow me, or you can, if you know the chant, you can just do it with me. So first 10 verses of this 8th chapter. Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidaivam kim uchyate adhiyajna katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham jnyosi niyatatmabhihi. Shri Bhagavan uvacha aksharam brahma paramam svabhavodhyatma uchyate bhuta bhavoddhavakaraha visarga karma samgitaha adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushachadidaivatam adhiyajño hamevatra dehe dehabhritam vara antakala cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaf prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyatyanche kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmarayudhya cha mayi arpita mano buddhihi mame vaishyasya samshayam abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan kavim purana manushasitaram man ano aniyan smaredyaha sarvasya dhataram achintya rupam aditya varnam tamasaf parastat prayana kale cha manasa chalena bhuktya yukto yoga balena chaiva ध्रुवोर मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक सतम परम पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम. So in reviewing these verses, the overall vision that we need to have is that for us as living beings, for each one of us, the evolution of our lives, the progress of our personality, the progress of us, progress in the sense that we're all looking for the same thing, how to be independently happy. So progress in that goal is a continuous process with no discontinuities, no sudden changes. Now the one sudden change that appears to happen is that of death. Because it seems on the surface that it kind of interrupts things in a very jarring manner, as we know. But the meaning of the study of the Bhagavad Gita and the entire scriptures is that it is not so. It appears like discontinuous, but it is not discontinuous. It cannot be discontinuous, because the rest of our life is a continuous process, and even the changes in the body, etc., from one life to the other is also a continuous process. Obviously, in the case of hardware, if it has to be discarded, then it has to be, but the software remains the same, as we've seen before. So here what it means is that you should consider your outer body, so-called the outer body with hands, legs, and so on and so forth, is really more of a clothing. It's more of a covering of your own self. And if the clothing gets very old, it's a very sophisticated clothing made by Ishvara, then it has to be discarded. So the fabric of the cloth starts to dismember, and pretty soon it just goes away. I have a couple of shirts that are my favorites. They are cotton shirts, and I've really had them for a long time. And pretty soon I found that there was a big hole that began to appear, and I tried to repair it as much as I can. And my mother-in-law, who's close by here, she's 93, and she is a wonderful seamstress. She still does so much work. So she actually helped me but I don't want to throw it away. But finally, just the other day, or like about a few months ago, there were 3 or 4 big holes that came into my favorite shirt, and I had to take part of it. I was really sorry, because it was so wonderful. But I think I've had it for like 30 years or something. But finally I had to get rid of it. So the body is the same way, that eventually it gets giveaway, but it's really just a covering to it. In fact, it's interesting in the second chapter, verse number 22 of the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna himself says this. He says, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinnati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. So he says, just like you give up the clothing and you pick up a new one, similarly the dehin, the one who dwells in the day, the person who is indwelling in this body. So there is a person indwelling in the body. This is what is called Purusa. Purusa means the one who is who is the person who's the like the main person in the body. Very much like there is a Raja, there is a king who lives in a town and everything behaves according to its the order of the person, the demands of the person, the desire of the king. And the whole city is really an embodiment of the personality of the person. Similarly is there. We have a very sophisticated city. Navadware. All this was given in the second verse, in the second chapter. And so that person, when the deha become non-usable, then goes on to the next one. So the point of this is that the person remains pretty much the same. It's a continuous process until you merge into the very content of who you are. That's a separate thing altogether. But here, this is an interesting thing. In the 8th chapter that we are studying, what is pointed out is that your progress and your evolution is a continuous process. All of our problems in life come in when we don't understand that. We are in a hurry and we are confused. What does a life lead to? There is a Western saying which was interesting when I first heard that. It brought a smile to my lips. It says, life is a bitch and then it ends. I think it's a good saying. It appears to be full of problems, and then at the end of that you are gone. So if you look at it from a perspective, in that perspective, it doesn't make any sense. And it shouldn't make any sense. What should make sense is that it is really part of a multi-stage process where you are evolving into something beautiful. And so this is what is being studied. So now in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very, very unique chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, should be seen as a unique chapter, really. We went over this to some extent in the last class or so, but let me revise that notion of the uniqueness of the 8th chapter. Because all the other 17 chapters, in fact the entire Bhagavad Gita, is a moksha shastra. It is to gain a sense of timelessness while you are still alive. Moksha shastra. And it is devoted to it that this is what it should happen in your life, and if you really just follow the process, it's very likely you will be able to become timeless and immortal while you appear to be mortal. This is what the main focus of the Bhagavad Gita is, as of the entire Vedanta. The 8th chapter says, by the way, if you were to leave this body before you acquire this wisdom, what then? The possibilities are I have to start all over again. This was kind of like a wasted effort on my part. And I don't know what will happen, where will I go, what laws govern my next life. But what Sri Krishna is assuring us is that since the entire creation is a continuous process, nothing will be lost. Nothing will be lost. I tell you, it's interesting when we have some deaths in the society, and as I grow older, I experience the deaths of many friends and people and relatives and so on and so forth. And I feel like giving this message to them, but when they're grieving, it's hard to receive that message. That really it's, as you know, as we talked about it before, that in Shastra it says that there is not much difference between sleep and death. Not much at all. It appears to be a huge difference. And from the standpoint of one who's lost a relative or a friend, it is. But only from the standpoint of that person who has lost. But from the standpoint of the person who has given up the body, it's a continuous process. Not that much of a change. Yes, you have to take up the birth as a baby and all that. It takes a while to come up to speed again. It's kind of like a punctured tire. Yes, you have to stop, you have to change the wheel and so on, and you are driving at 65 miles per hour and all of a sudden you have to come to a stop and you cannot regain the speed without having to go through that. Yeah, we understand all that. But eventually the wheel will be repaired and you will slowly accelerate and you'll go back to 65 miles per hour. So this is what the 8th chapter is unique about. It says, in case you are not able to be a Jivan Mukta, if you're not able to see the moksha while you're living, then here is what happens. And here is what should happen, and you should see that it is part of a continuous process. This is what the whole message of the... And so when I say unique, it takes a pause. The rest of the Bhagavad Gita is all devoted to moksha in this life. But chapter 8 gives a exception that in case you are not able to achieve it, here is what happens. This is what called Krama Mukti, not Sadhya Mukti. Sadhya Mukti means right now. But Krama Mukti means that there is a process involved, and if you're not able to achieve it, don't worry, everything is all taken care of. This is what it is. So we saw all that. So Arjuna asking the question on the second verse, Prayana kalecha katham jnyosi niyata atmabhi. He says that you have already devoted the time to explain to me that the process is no bhakti, no knowledge, then bhakti with sakama bhakti, which means limited results. All the bhakti for limited results in this life is called sakama bhakti. Then the next one is nishkama bhakti, which means instead of getting better and better appliances for my broken hip, I want the hip to be completely okay. I don't want to keep new crutches. I want no crutches. Isn't that possible? Tell me how. So that is called Nishkama Bhakti. Nishkama Bhakti means that it is not specifically to a kama. I want no kama whatsoever. I don't want kamas. Kama means desires, which is like a pebble in my shoe. I do not want any desires whatsoever. I want to be happy without seeking desires. It's called Nishkama Bhakti. So no bhakti, sakama bhakti, Nishkama Bhakti. And from a Nishkama Bhakti comes Jnanam. This is where we are all evolving to. Where you know that your status is not like that of a jiva. You are in fact free from it. This is what we want. So that comes after Nishkama Bhakti, Jnanam. Now, if before you gain Jnanam, but you do have Nishkama Bhakti. Nishkama Bhakti means that you have recognized that there is an Ishvara, there is a process, and I am actually on that road. So this is what Ismat means, Niyata Atma Bhihi. For people who are already in Nishkama Bhakti, then Prayana Kalecha Katham Yeyosi. How will I know it? In other words, what's going to happen to me? Because the rest of my family is no longer helping me. They cannot help me. A doctor cannot help me. My bank balance doesn't help me. Nothing helps me. Who's going to take care of me? I'm not done yet. That's what is meant by Arjuna's question. So there, in answering the question, he says in verse number 5, Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaf prayati sat samadbhavam yatina asti atra samshaya. So he says, listen, at the time of leaving your body, kalevaram, at the very end of it, when you are leaving, you please think of me. Don't think of your spouse. You can think of the spouse if you want, but at least also think of me. Don't think of your children, your brothers and sisters and friends who are all crying and they cannot save you. Don't think of the doctor and the nurses who are taking care of it. They are all trying their best, but they are unable to save you. Think of me. And if you think of me, then you will go to the right direction. So now, this is the setup. So now let's proceed on this setup. So the person says, well, thank you for telling me that. That is a that's very good advice. Excellent advice. I think that makes a lot of sense. Because, why it makes sense? Because I can understand that all these living beings around me have taken me up to this point, supporting me. Now they can't do it. So now only God can support me, and so now that makes sense, all that. But here's what I'm going to do. You see, right now I am too busy to think of you. Why? Because I've got things to do. You know, I'm buying a new home, and then I've got to have a job to do, and I've got a new job. All those kinds of things. I'm very busy. And thanks to you, you are involved with this and so on. But you see, I'm not doing anything bad. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'll be very busy at this time. Okay? This is what I'm doing. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to fulfill my duties in my life with everyone, and I will take care of them and myself and all of that. But at the end, towards when I'm in the hospital, supposing I have a stroke or some kind of a heart attack, or I'm attacked by COVID or something, and I'm being wheeled into the ICU, and people are now crying and they are getting disconnected from me one by one, I will remember your advice and I will start to remember you. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, right now you're all helping me with other people and I'm very busy with it. and forgive me for not really thinking of you very much. But I promise I take your advice, I think a good advice for all the logical reasons, and at that time I will remember you. So Sri Krishna says, no, this is not going to work. This is you are taking a shortcut, and the shortcut is kind of like a cheating me. And shortcuts in this manner, it may be some minor areas where you can shortcut an obvious long cut, but in this manner, no, this doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the person can say, why not? What's the flaw in this? I'm telling you, I'm very sincere. I'm not saying that I'm putting you on or anything. I am really going to give up. I'm not going to think about all the people who are around me in the ICU, and I'm going to close my eyes and I'm just going to go think of you. And then leave my body. And then this will work out very well. This is the best thing. I'm also helping them now. And later on, I don't need their help and so on. Nothing can be done, and I'll think of you. No, it's not going to work. Why? Because what happens is that you are influenced by two things in your life at all times. Okay? One is in fact, there are lots of problems with this approach. One problem is that how death approaches you, how Lord Yama visits you, is unpredictable. Unpredictable. Yes, Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, so Dharmaraja, which is Lord Death in the Kathopanishad, he is the teacher of Nachiketas. So he is called Dharmaraja. So Dharmaraja means that he has to fulfill the mandate of Ishvara as what the sequence of changing one's life is. When the karma phala is finished, what is the dharma for it? And you have to follow that. So we are all standing in a huge line waiting for visit from Lord Yama. The word Yama is, this is called Lord Death. And Lord Death is called Yama. So there is a person in charge of regulating the deaths of people. Who should go when? That is Lord Yama. And his name is Yama, means it is according to an order. It is not arbitrary. Even an accident is not an accident. It was supposed to happen. An accident from our standpoint. But from the standpoint of the laws of life, it is not an accident. Not an accident. Even in the Hindu marriage system, in Punjabi used to say that Valiyan Sangyog. Valiyan Sangyog, I tell you, this is an interesting thing, because for those of us who are Indians, and we are of older Indians, these days, marriages can be done without the families, but in our days, these were all arranged marriages. And all these were arranged properly, and it was not properly, but it was arranged by others, and it had some kind of a destiny to it. Whether the marriage is successful or not, that's a separate thing. Everybody has problems and so on. But the reason why a particular person was chosen is destiny. This is what we all believe. And suppose you say, you know what, I don't believe in any destiny. I am just going to choose on my own. So Ishvara will say, okay, all right, choose your own. And then who are you going to choose? I'm going to show you. You can tell Ishvara, I'm going to show you. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with me. Whoever I choose. The Ishvara says, okay, who are you going to choose? So suppose you, I'm just giving up, sorry for just having a fun on this. But supposing you are a male, from a male standpoint, there are two girls that you can choose from. And one of them looks like it is the one you are more attracted to. So you can tell Ishvara, you think I'm going to marry her, isn't it? I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to marry somebody else. And I'm going to surprise you. And Ishvara says, okay, do it. If you just to prove Ishvara wrong, supposing you get married to that of girl number B, then Ishvara say, I knew it all along, this is who you are going to marry. You are going to surprise me. So this all has some destiny to it. And so there's nothing you can do. You cannot, when Yama approaches you for death, there is a line. Swami Dayananda used to say there is a huge line. And what really saves us is not knowing what my number is in that line. It does, because otherwise, you know what, even our life will become, it is just like going to Hawaii. You go for 1 week and after one day you say, oh my gosh, only 4 days left. Oh my gosh, only 3 days left. You enjoy the whole week? No, I cannot enjoy because the end is approaching. So something like that. If you knew what your number is, even your life is, somebody will give you breakfast and you say, no, oh my gosh, my number is 36. And I think in 36 more days I'm going to be gone. And that may be true. But at least you didn't know it until that time. But now the whole 36 days are gone, are unpleasant. So Swamiji used to say, it is good that we don't know. He used to tell us about a story. There was this really used to happen to my dad. My dad would say, you know what, I am getting old. And I'm just giving trouble to everybody in my own body. Oh Lord, just take me away. Just please, take me away. And he used to, I remember this so well. I would go there at least once a year. Generally once a year when my parents were both alive. And every time he would say goodbye to me, he would say, I think this is the last time I'm going to show you. So let me give you a big hug. It was nice to be together in this life, and we will see again sometime. My mother used to say, don't say things like that. You're going to see him again. Don't even bring on. And so my dad says, no, I think this is the last. Do you know he said that for 10 years? 10, 12 years he would say that. Vijay, I think this is the last time I'm going to see you. Goodbye. And my mom will get so irritated at that. And do you know, one time he said, okay, I'm not going to see you. I'm not going to say that I'm going to see you again. That is the year he died. Very interesting. And so there was a story about this woman who would say, oh Lord, please take me away. I'm tired of this. My body is just giving me problems. Everybody has to support me. Just take me away. Okay? Yama, Lord Yama, just bring. So one day she got up and she was just doing her prayers in the morning. And there was this frightening form, black, with the, the black hood as they show the picture with a stick and so on. So she says, "Who are you?" He says, "My dear, I am answering your prayers. I am Lord Yama. It's time to go." He says, "You are Lord Yama?" "Yes, I am Lord Yama." She says, "But wait, I haven't had breakfast yet." The Yama says, "Madam, go, let's go." He says, No, I cannot go yet." The Yama said, "You've been asking for me. I was late coming in, I should have heard, but here I am." He says, No, but I have to say goodbye. My granddaughter, she is going to go to school." We don't know when we're going to die. So Lord Krishna says, listen, this scheme of yours where you're going to remember me at the last minute is not going to work. Because number one, you don't know when the last minute is. How quickly you're going to go, you don't know. You are imagining you'll have 7 days in ICU and then you will, and this is the modern ICU days where no one in the family can visit you anyway. So the family will not be there and you will not be able to see anyone. So there you can remember me. No, it can go just like this. Just the other day I found somebody just died of a heart attack. Just like that. When the heart attack comes, you have no time to get to say to goodbye or even remember anyone. So he says that's not going to work. Suppose you have enough time. You are in an ICU and you are the wailing family members are there, and now you have a chance to transfer your memory to Ishvara. Even then it will not work. Why wouldn't it work? Because there are two factors that always govern what we are doing next, what we are thinking next. Two factors. One of them is your will. This is what I'm going to do. Sankalpa. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, fine. Okay, I have decided that from this point on, I'm going to remember God and not my daughters and sons and wife and husbands or so on. Okay, this is Sankalpa. You can do that. But there is another factor. What is that factor? And that is what is called Vasana. So one is a conscious thought, the other one is a Vasana, which can be looked at as a subconscious thought. Vasana means all your old habits for a long time. And those are the ones that give you the opportunity to be where you are at this point. You are at this point, again it's a continuous process because of lots of different previous things that are going to influence you. So now there are two factors and they are both vying with each other for your attention. One is your own will, the other one is the Vasana which influence you. And which one is more powerful, we don't know. Chances are your Vasanas will be more powerful than your will. How can we say that? Because you are involved with it day and night. If you just take a stock of where you are today at any point in your life, It is full of worries and desires of people and your friends and your relatives and your spouses and your children. Oh, I'm going to do this, and that person didn't do that to me, but I think I can do. This is what it's all about. This is what is all creating vasanas, vasanas, vasanas. And you have some people who really love, you love very much, especially if you are old enough like me, you have grandchildren. And the love for grandchildren is something very beautiful. Because why that is the case is because there's no expectations from them. Why the love for grandchildren is so pure. For all other, the love for the spouse is sullied by the fact that you get expectations. I want my spouse to behave like this. Yes, I love the spouse, but I want her or him to behave like this. Expectation. Same thing with children. I love my kids, my boys and girls, but this but is much less for the grandchildren. Because you just like the way they are. You don't expect them to do well or not do well. That is up to their parents to take care of. So your love is much more pure for your grandchildren. And at the time of death, really you start thinking about the grandchildren. Oh, I'm going to miss them. Oh, what's going to happen to them? I didn't spend enough time. All those kind of things called vasanas. And your will is, I must remember what Gita said, you kalevaram mam smaranapi, just the last minute, please think of me, think of me. Yes, this is my will. When the vasanas comes in the meantime. People, and especially supposing you are still alive and you're dying, but you're still alive, and you have grandchildren who are wailing and say, Papa, Mom, don't go, we want you. Who are you thinking of? How are you going to just remember? You're not going to just close the eyes and so on, no way. So anyway, it is not going to work. So this kind of a thinking from you that I am going to I'm going to do this at the last minute. It is not going to work. Because Swami Paramarthananda had given this very beautiful thing, that it's a process. Life is a process. And how vasanas are formed is a process. And for you to stem the tide of that process is going to be, I think it is impossible, but at the very least it is highly improbable. And so he gave this very lovely, he had repeated this verse. Watch your thought, because it will become your words. Watch your words, because they will become your actions. Watch your actions, because they will become your habit. Watch your habits, because they will become your character. Watch your character, because it will become your destiny. A continuous process. So the upshot of that is that you cannot cheat. You cannot cheat. You have to build your subconscious so that at the time of the expression of the subconscious, it becomes the right conscious thought. And so what it really means is, if you postpone bringing Ishvara into your life means even thinking about Ishvara. What is the role of Ishvara? See, this is what the problem is. We cannot see the presence of Ishvara until I inquire into it. Because the problem is not the absence of Ishvara in my life. The problem is my not recognizing the presence of Ishvara in my life. That's the thing. And one of these verses will come here in a minute. No, I think it was, I'm sorry, I was reviewing the another verse where it says that yeah, this was what was I was chanting the Rudram this morning. So there is a verse there which says Satwana. So there is in the very first Anuvaka there is a word which says Satwana. Satvanaha namaha. My namaha to your Satvanaha, O Rudra. Not only is my nama to you, but to your ganas, all the people that support you. My namaha. So what it means is that Ishvara's presence in my life is not like a single person. That is not the right way to look at it. The whole thing, the support that I have is from Ishvara. So for example, you can thank your family for supporting you. That's very visible, easy to see. Your wife makes food for you, so for you to thank her is very reasonable. Okay? Your son visits you from time to time, even if he lives far away. It's very visible and it's thank you. But have you ever thought about thanking the person who gives you your heart? Oh, I don't know, the heart is mine. What do I have to think about? Okay, all right. Now I'm going to take the heart away from you. The entire set of things that I have is given to me by Ishvara. This is called Satvanaha, means that the entire army of people, not only the one person, but the whole army of people who are helping me. Is this not recognizing the presence of Ishvara? It's not the lack of the presence of Ishvara, but the lack of recognition. And the sooner I begin to inquire, Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, it's very interesting that when there is a child, supposing you go on a family vacation, and this is some kind of a resort where everything is taken care of and there's beautiful gardens and so on and so forth, the sun shines, beautiful. And you have a family, you'll go there on a vacation. And supposing in your family you have some kids, and one of the kids is like 5-year-old, 4 or 5-year-old, and the other one is perhaps a teenager. And so what happens is, with the teenagers also enjoy, and the 5-year also enjoy, but there is a difference. The teenager says, Mom and Dad, this is wonderful. How you really are able to, I'm so thankful you brought us here. Thank you, wonderful. The 5-year-old doesn't do that. He also enjoys, but he doesn't thank anyone. Because that thinking has not arrived that this was as the result of someone who brought me to this vacation. Same situation is now. We are in a resort, no resort like this whole world, where the sun comes up in the morning, there is water available for drinking, there is food available for. This is a huge, beautiful thing. And like a 5-year-old spiritually, we are just oblivious to what causes it, who's there, and so on. So here Lord Krishna says, don't do it next year, don't do it now. Start by recognizing me as your protector. Because if you don't do that now, and if you don't get used to it, you don't get accustomed to seeing me, because you will see my presence and my support in every aspect of your life, and you will begin to see my presence, and you will begin to see that I am the one who is going to now rearrange you in your next life. The rest of the people are not. If you understand how important my contribution will be, will you not remember me? Of course you will remember me. Because you only remember people who really support you. And you better begin that now. So, my saying at the time of death, remember me, is to tell you, don't just remember me at the time, because you won't be able to do it. That's how it proceeds. So I think what we had done last week was the 6th one. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam eva eti kaunteya sada sadbhava bhavita. So that we had done last week. Then he says in number 7, tasmat, he says, because the general rule is that whatever you are involved in during your life, that's the one you remember. Those are the things that you are involved in. Therefore, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. In number 7, first line, he says, therefore, please remember me, begin to recognize me at all times. There should not be a single moment where you don't have the recognition that something has been deliberately provided for you as a 5-star resort. Like in a 5-star resort, you're like a more advanced child. Even a teenager may not realize how much money one has to earn to go to these vacations and so on. But only you know what you had earned and how expensive it is, and what a privilege you are providing to the whole family in that example. So this way also, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. This is an important thing to see. So he says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhya cha. So this is an important thing to see. So he says, remember Krishna is talking to Arjuna in a battlefield. Arjuna is still involved in this battle between Kauravas and Pandavas, the bad and the good. There is a struggle going on. He's very actively involved. This is what the whole setup is. So he says, you please remember me at all times and fight on. Fight on and remember me. Aren't you telling me something so difficult to do? If I am remembering you, then wouldn't my fighting be interrupted? I have to really be involved in this battle, and instead my mind will be just thinking of you. So would not my actions be affected by that? So Krishna says no. The way to do that is, while you are consciously involved in things, subconsciously think of the fact that I'm with you. I'm with you. This is being done with my assistance, and so you don't have to put one or the other. We work differently. You keep on doing your actions, but with the knowledge that I am not only with you, I am you. I am providing you the assistance that you need to do so. This was an important thing in the very setup of the Bhagavad Gita, where remember that Duryodhana and Arjuna both approached Krishna when he was sleeping. You've seen this example before. You've heard of this example. I've talked about it. And so they both came to the assistance of Krishna. Krishna, of course, was a king with a huge army of his own. And so both Duryodhana from the Kaurava side and Arjuna from the Pandava side approached him and said, "Sir, we need your assistance." And he was sleeping. And it so happens that the first person he saw when he woke up was Arjuna. Then he also saw Duryodhana. So he says, "What brings you here?" So they both said, "We need your assistance. How are you going to give it?" So he says, "Well, the only way I can think of is one person can have me and the other person can have my entire 12,000, I think it was 12,000 or whatever number, army." So they said, "Okay, how are we going to choose?" He says, "Whoever I saw first when I woke up will have the first choice." And I saw Arjuna first. So Duryodhana was sweating. Oh my God, I lost out on this. He gets the first choice and he gets the entire army. What am I going to do with Krishna? So Krishna says, "Okay, what is your choice?" Arjuna says, "I want you." Duryodhana said, "Phew," big, exhaled, and internally he said, "What a fool he is. He's lost the battle right there. What? One person versus 12,000? What is Krishna going to do?" Arjuna, even before he understood the entire teaching of Vedanta from Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, knew the power of Krishna as an avatara. And he says, "I think that will help me better." And so he chose him And so there's not a choice. It is like choosing between reality and non-reality. Fighting is like a dream, and waking up is like reality. And so choosing Krishna is a no-brainer. Why would you choose just a temporary? When you are dreaming, you may have a battle going on there, as we do every night. Some things is bothering you, this, that, or the other. Pretty soon the whole thing is over. Dream itself is over. All dried up. Nothing like that. Then you are awake. You are bereft of all the problems. So, Krishna says it is possible that you can keep consciously fighting while subconsciously you are aware of the fact that I am there. Here Swami Maheshanji had given a very interesting example. He said, supposing there is this was in an Indian setting where the wife is cooking at home, and she's cooking for the whole family and so on and so forth. And this is her in-laws' house. And in an in-laws' house, you're always having some family problems, and the mother-in-law doesn't like you, you don't like the mother-in-law, and all kinds of in-law problems occur and so on. So Swamiji says that there, subconsciously, the woman is now cooking and doing some housework for the whole family, and it may not be very pleasant, but she is doing it for the sake of her husband that she loves very much. She appreciates what the man is. There is no point in leaving him. There is no chance of leaving him. We are united forever. He is my Lord of this life, and I'm deeply devoted to him. And if he's not here, it doesn't make any difference. He's somewhere else on business, traveling. But I do it for his sake, as much as for my own sake. And if there are some unpleasantness in the family and so on, so be it. So this is the spirit behind where this word yudhya cha, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. Yudhya cha means keep on the obvious side, let no one know that you are thinking of Ishvara when you are looking at them. That's okay, no problem. But deep inside, you know what's happening, who's supporting you, who's giving you the breath, who's giving you the consciousness, who's keeping your body functioning. All of those kinds of things you are aware of. Other people may not be aware of. They are all fine. If not, that's okay too. Second line. Mai arpita mano buddhihi mam eva aishya aishasyas asamshayam. So he again he says, the rest of that is very simple, that please be devoted. And so here mano buddhihi means, manaha means that be emotionally attached also. So you see, this is what we talked about in the 8th chapter in the beginning also, that that you need to also have bhakti. You cannot do something until you are emotionally attached to it. So please do so, as well as buddhi. So buddhi means the wisdom of knowing that my heart and my lungs and my kidneys and all of those things are really being supported. They were designed for me and they are being supported by, that is buddhi. You don't have to be emotionally attached to your heart and your lungs. but you know that it is the truth. But you should be emotionally attached to the Creator and the supporter at all times. That's what meant by both Mano Buddhi. And this asamshayam is used again. So in number 5 also he says, na atra samshayaha, and in number 7 also asamshayam, means let there be no doubt about it. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Who says this, that there is Ishvara? We haven't seen him. You're not likely to see him, my dear. You actually see him everywhere, but you don't recognize. He says, please don't doubt it. This is my word for it. Rely on it and do it this way. So number 7. (1106). Yeah, I think we can do one more verse very quickly. So let's do that. Number 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. So here in this verse, number 8, another factor is brought in, which is something we should recognize, which is called Abhyasa Yoga. Abhyasa Yoga. Abhyasa Yoga means by a continuous practice of meditation and recognition of Ishvara. And this is needed because, practice makes perfect. In the beginning, until it becomes your second nature, a deliberate attempt by repeatedly going in this new direction that you may not have known before is important. It's true for anything in our life. Learning a new language, just doing it once doesn't make any difference. You have to really put more emphasis into it. Even saying a name, even doing a prayer like Om Namah Shivaya. So the repeated nature of doing something brings solid results. And there comes a point where you don't have to do that anymore. But until then, it is an important thing to do. I remember Swami Dayanandji on the Shivaratri day, when Om Namah Shivaya is chanted. As you know this pretty well in these ashrams, and we also did that to a certain extent. There is a continuous chanting of the Panchakshari, Om Namah Shivaya. The whole day, it should not be broken at all. So that is what is called Abhyasa Yoga. And so what the phenomena that would be is that you're doing Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. In fact, this is what they say, that you should be doing it sometimes with the mala, with your, this is what's called telling of the beads. So this is important to do. Om Namah Shivaya, one bead. Om Namah Shivaya, second bead. Om Namah Shivaya. Or some other name that you can give. Om Namo Vasudevaya, Hare Rama, whatever. So what happens is that if your thoughts are straying, instead of Om Namah Shivaya, you'll say, oh, I wonder what's for breakfast today. Then when you are telling the beads stop. So when you know that the beads are stopping, that means your mind is straying. You go back to Om Namah Shivaya. So in the Shivratri day, Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says in the beginning when you start saying Om Namah Shivaya, you are also time sharing it with the lots of other thoughts that are coming to your mind. But through abhyasa, through constant repetition of the same name, what you find is that the vasanas of the name become stronger. And yes, in the beginning you may have to say, no, not now, I don't want to think about anything else. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Very soon you find that your mind has been tamed. It was untamed at first, but through regular practice it is tamed. So in verse number 8, that is really the contribution. He says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina. If you have trouble recognizing me and remembering me, practice on it. There is no shame in practicing. If you look at basketball and how these Steph Curry and all of these people make these, that is just an amazing thing. From about, 30 feet away to get into a 3-point basket. It is just incredible how they do that. But you know what? They used to say this, if you look at their practice, they keep on doing it for hours at a time. And it is amazing. There are places where they don't even miss a single one when they practice. They can do like 50 or 60 of them, no missing. All from practice. So that when the real game comes, and of course in the real game you have people clamoring all over you, and you don't have freedom to throw the ball. But the practice helps. So that's the main reason for this. He says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. So here the couple of words are used, purusham and divyam. And so purusham here of course means, there are two meanings for purusham. Purusham is the one who is with you in your body and mind. So Ishvara is, as a conscious entity, is with you. And the one-on-one is the one who completes all of your things. And so the sense of completeness is also given by the same Purusha. So that means, really speaking, the very isness and consciousness, which is the very substratum of everything, is also given as a completeness by Purusha. And so he says, Paramam Purusham Divyam. Divyam here means the one which is effulgent. It is not inert. He says, you will achieve me, but through constant practice. So with that, I close the class and see if there's any questions that you have. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Welcome all of you. A lot of people from both the classes. That is just, I don't know how you do that. Listening to two classes back to back must be really challenging, but I applaud you for doing it. And so nice to see you twice. And everyone else at the same time. Wonderful. I presume there was no freezing of the video as we had on Tuesday night. We're still kind of debugging it. We think we'll get to the bottom of it, but I'm happy there was nothing today. Yeah. All right, if there's no other questions, no questions actually, then we will see you next week. Om.